The journey from spiritual doormat to empowered baddie is not for the weak. You either ghost everybody because you're afraid of conflict, or you swing too hard and you come off like a cold-hearted bitch. And yes, I've done all of these things. So have most of my clients. So today we're going to talk about the pendulum swing that happens when you're learning how to embody your power in a way that's fierce but also open-hearted. All right, let's get into it. I want to start with a little bit of a story here about, again, that swing of thinking that being empowered means keeping the peace at all costs versus being so harsh and so aggressive that you're actually creating walls and you're like so fucking prickly that you're repelling what it is that you want. Like you think making the boundary or speaking up is going to get you what you want, but it's actually just pushing people away. Okay, I'm going to open up my notes. All right. I think that, this journey is messy, you guys. You're going to go back and forth. You're going to experience a lot of extremes before you sort of come to a center around what it feels like, not just mentally and emotionally, but also somatically, like in your body, what power feels like. Not reactivity, and not like performative power where you're just yelling as loud as you can or like pulling out your PowerPoint presentation to explain to somebody why you deserve this and that and why you need this and that. There are points where you're going to have to speak up clearly. There are points where you're not going to have to say anything at all. But true power is not reactive. Let's just put it that way. It might be responsive and it might be strong. It's not always quiet, but it's definitely not defensive. All right, so I think that a lot of people struggle with this, and they start by like trying to keep the peace because they think being empowered means never saying anything to like create drama. So they start allowing things that instead of making a boundary, for example, because they're not sure how to do it yet, they just don't say anything, and they hold it in and it festers and they're like trying so hard to be a nice person, to be peaceful, quote unquote, to be like a quote unquote good spiritual person, like love and light only. That's why love and light only is bullshit, because you can't get to love and light unless you integrate your dark side, or else it's going to come out fake, or it's going to be contrived, or it's going to be you bending over backwards, again, being a spiritual doormat, using flowery love and light language to like bypass the harder work of, saying no, perhaps, or speaking up for yourself. So a lot of people start by saying nothing until they explode. And when they explode, look the fuck out. It's usually scary because it's been boiling in there for so long. A people pleaser or somebody who's been bending over backwards that finally snaps typically really goes from 0 to 100,000. I just had a client write to me about this week who's been struggling with this. The struggle is real. Okay, or you might, sorry, I'm just checking my notes. You might think that boundaries means being like really cold and harsh. So a lot of people, when they're first starting to make boundaries, swing from the sort of people pleaser, I'm not going to say anything to keep the peace, and then all of a sudden they have a formal declaration that is like 1,000 decibels loud that they need to let everybody know about. Or maybe you snap at somebody, like respond back really spicy, and then, you don't necessarily get the response that you were looking for. You feel empowered because you yelled it or because you pushed back, but ultimately there is a finesse to this. So it's definitely, it's a dance. It's a dance, an internal dance, honestly, of learning how to hold discomfort and also learning when and how to like choose the things that you want to speak up about and when it's just not worth a response at all. We go from fawning, like, again, people pleasing, being a doormat, to freezing. So freezing is like maybe somebody says something to you and instead of standing up for yourself, you don't know what to do because you're so uncomfortable or taken aback that you look like a deer in headlights. Freeze. So you do nothing. Then sort of faux boundaries, we could call them, more like defense mechanisms. end up looking like being petty, like clapping back, being like overly aggressive. But again, it doesn't necessarily get you the result that you want, but it gives you a sense of being in control. So I would call the faux boundaries kind of like control mechanisms, like ways that you feel that you get back in the driver's seat. And for a temporary period, that makes your ego feel good. And then finally, I feel like truly after you do that dance for a while and keep swinging back and forth, you end up starting to find your real center where you feel empowered, but your heart feels really open. Like you can say no to something and it doesn't immediately mean that you hate the other person or that you're going to shut them out or that you have to make them wrong and make you right. That's another big part of power. It's not about I'm right and you're wrong. It's really about being able to hold paradox, to be able to hold two things that are true simultaneously, meaning your truth and the other person's truth. And then there's like a third truth that exists beyond both of you. And true power doesn't need to be correct all the time. Because if you understand the laws of karma and you understand like how the world works, this is why I study Buddhism, then you start to understand that karma works in a certain way. There are laws of karma. There are always results that come from a cause. And if you're planting the causes for the type of energy that you want to experience, which is probably more compassion, more love, more understanding, and also perhaps, again, more unapologetic expression, if you plant the right seeds, you're going to start getting those types of results that are very similar, rest assured. So the thing is that you start to, for me, this is how it works. You really start to come into your power when you reclaim your agency. Like that means you're taking radical responsibility for whatever it is that's going on in your world. Mind, body, speech. Whatever's coming out of your mouth, whatever you're thinking about, the ways that you're acting, that's what you have control over. So that's how you create new karma. It's also how you create shitty karma that's going to create results that are unpleasant down the road. So when you're coming into your power, like I said before, it's not about being right and wrong. It's about knowing what's true for you. And it's about understanding that your ownership is what creates your power. Because you can't control what other people are doing. And I think something that people really mistake when it comes to power dynamics is that they think they need to be in control of the other person in order to feel powerful. And there are definitely ways that you can direct a conversation. Like if any of you guys have heard of Kasia Urbaniak, she wrote the book Unbound, A Woman's Guide to Power. She used to be a dominatrix. She was also a Taoist nun. So she has a really vast, knowledge of power dynamics, both dominant dynamics and like more submissive dynamics, and not just about sex, but in the direction of the energy and of the conversation. So, but it's not about right and wrong. So I think that's where a lot of people get off track and they start to feel frustrated. When you start taking accountability, when you start taking responsibility for your world and what you're creating in it, even if it's really small steps, and then you follow through all the way. Most people get tripped up and they say, I want to say no, I want to make a boundary, for example. And then they make the boundary once, and almost every single time when you start creating new boundaries with people, they're going to test your boundaries. So they're probably going to react kind of spicy, or they're not going to like it, or maybe they're going to have a little bit of a tantrum, or maybe they're going to start to act up in some way. Maybe it's ignoring you, maybe it's doubling down and going harder and trying to press you. But the point is, you'll definitely get tested. When you start coming into your power, there will be many, 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 many. There will be many tests. There will be many tests. Let me repeat, you will be tested. But that's how you learn. So try not to judge yourself when you're going through these tests, because there is no correct way to do it. You really have to feel it out for yourself. Every person is unique. But I can promise that when you start to do things differently in your world and you start to reclaim this power that you've been giving away, whether it be the people pleaser spectrum of things or the ultra aggressive or cold and aloof and disconnected or disassociated whatever it is, dismissive end of things, you'll be tested. People will be like, oh, really? You said no? Do you mean that? Are you sure? Well, what if I do this? Well, what if I do that? So this is where you get to start to practice. There will be some pushback, and also you have to acknowledge that when you're reclaiming this power, that there will be some loss. There will be grief, most likely. There will be consequences for when you follow through, but there will be both positive ones and probably some negative ones. Because you can't change a behavior without experiencing some type of shift. So something might go away. Let's just use a relationship, for example. If somebody isn't honoring a boundary of yours, maybe a boundary of yours is, I don't want to lie to one another. Like, I don't want to be in a relationship where we tell lies. I want there to be honesty and truth and transparency. Great. But if that's what you want, then you need to be willing to hear truth when it's hard. You need to be a safe space for somebody to tell you something that's difficult without punishing them. You need to be able to hold the discomfort in your body that arises when truth is in the room. That is a very new thing for most people. And so if you want honesty and transparency in a relationship, first of all, you need to be doing those things. You need to be embodying that energy yourself, including telling yourself the truth. And then being that honest and forthcoming with other people, even if they get disappointed, even if they get angry with you, even if they cut you off, even if they reject you or abandon you, right? It's the follow through, I find, with power dynamics that throws people off. And it's why it can take people a while. It might take you a while to do this dance, both with yourself and with other people, to really start to find your center where you're not like swinging again from the pendulum back and forth. The loss is the thing that people struggle with the most, I think. It's the pushback, it's the loss, it's the sacrifices, it's the people that don't want to hear it, or it's the thing that you want, like honesty, but then when somebody's actually honest with you, you get upset. It's okay to get upset. It's the difference between reacting to something like a knee-jerk reaction that comes from fear and insecurity and anger, and you're not actually thinking it through before you say it or do it, versus responding. You don't have to like it, but there's a more refined way to deal with conflict, to deal with difficulties, to approach power. There is. So let me just peek at my notes again. So, I mean, to me, like, real power feels grounded. It feels sometimes quiet and soft. Sometimes it feels more assertive and fierce. Definitely not always sexy. But the one thing that it's not is, like, defensive just for the sake of being defensive. Like, it's not prickly, because if somebody's enforcing their power, you'll feel it. They're not going to have to be nasty. But again, it's a skill that you have to develop. And power is saying no, without an explanation, or overcompensating, maybe, like I said, through unnecessary aggression. It's like, again, it's the ability to hold high sensation in your body without being so reactive. And you know who struggles with this? High achievers. Because I will clump myself in here. High achievers are trained to be liked, to perform, to win, to operate and over-deliver. And when we stop doing that, we think that people are going to hate us. This is so real. I really went through this. So we might go cold, or then we end up cutting everybody off. And again, neither one of those things is power. That's just the nervous system starting to recalibrate. Real power, again, is grounded. It's open-hearted. It's compassionate. And it includes whatever boundaries need to be in place for you as an individual, because everybody's boundaries are different. It's very subjective. Like, what offends one person or activates one person or triggers one person may not be the case for somebody else. So I will say, I'll just give you guys an example of a time when I went through this and apply it to your relationships perhaps. I see this a lot in relationship. Because I talk a lot about conscious relationship, and people go through so much of this nuanced, more refined relating, where you are doing the dance of power, of sort of masculine and feminine energetics, In intimacy, there are times when you need boundaries. There are times when you're going to need to release those boundaries and relax and open up more. And there's even a level of intimacy where a lot of people, like if you really truly practice these things and you have a deep spiritual practice and your consciousness is at that level where you're capable, you can start to transcend some boundaries. But you can't run before you walk. So let's just say in a relationship, like I've definitely had instances where I felt misunderstood. Like when someone's pain points are triggered, even inadvertently, like you don't necessarily mean to do it or they don't mean to do it to you, but something's triggered within them, like a deep insecurity, a fear of abandonment, guilt, shame, especially shame. That's a big one for men, actually, is shame. For women, it's more guilt. For men, it's more shame. Isn't that interesting? So that's just in my experience. Also, I think Brene Brown did a talk about that. Side note. So when when something is triggered in somebody, oftentimes what happens is initially you might feel like you're under attack. You feel misunderstood, and so you're like, no, I have to over-explain myself now. Now I have to like win their approval back, or I have to like make them understand where I'm coming from. Or on the flip side, you might like clap back, snap back at them because you feel defensive now. But here's the thing. In an instance where this happens, now in the past, what would I do? I would probably, if this had happened, send an unsolicited paragraph or multiple ones, or try to like convince again, oh no, well, that's not what I meant, and what I really mean is this, and I need you to understand me in order for me to feel at peace. I don't need people to understand me anymore to feel at peace. And that is definitely a result of a spiritual practice. That is a result of meditation, of feeling my feelings fully, of allowing feelings to move through our body without attaching a story to them. That's another part of a meditation practice. This is what I teach people to do, by the way. And my spiritual practice helped me learn how to self-regulate. It helped me hold the tension of opposites, of my opinion and somebody else's opinion, of my truth and somebody else's truth, of my experience and someone else's experience, without having to make one of us right and one of us wrong. When somebody feels seen and not judged, even when they have a conflicting opinion, and I'm not talking about like abusive bullshit and you tolerating things like that. Forget that. That's like a whole nother conversation. I'm just talking about misunderstandings, like where your sensitivities are at play, some deep wound is triggered, and one or both of you starts to react instead of respond because something within you is hurting, and then you're wanting to like band-aid that hurt really quickly. But there's like a lack of compromise, and there isn't an ability to see both sides of the story. True power is when you can see both sides of the story. You can honor your side, you can honor their side, and when you're able to see someone in that and witness them without judging them, that's where you truly start to come into your power, and that's where your dynamics in your relationships are going to change. Like in the instance where this has happened to me, in the past when I would have word vomited or begged for them to come back or tried to explain it and like over-explain it, now it's like you understand, first of all, if you're really taking responsibility, you're like, this is a ripening of my own anger. Like I created the causes for this anger to be happening. So let me just own it. Okay, there it is. It's like a little flower sprouting, and once it sprouts, it's done. So you're like, okay, well, wherever that came from, it's now blossomed. Good. But what I'm not going to do is create more anger by planting more anger seeds. So I'm not going to throw gasoline on this fire. I'm going to take a breath, take a step back, breathe. Feel whatever's arising in my body. Is it defensiveness? Is it sadness? Is it shame? Is it fear? What is it? Feel the feeling. Don't even name it. Don't even put a story around it. I should say that. Feel it. Okay, I'm allowing the feeling. I'm not reacting. I'm not responding. I'm not writing anything. I'm not picking up the phone. No, I'm sitting in the feeling, the discomfort that's arising. And I always give myself a few days now. It's like, nothing's getting done in the first 24 hours. It's like you're going to sleep on it, especially if it's really activating. But again, this came as a result of practice to not immediately react. So I give it some time. I understand that hurt people, number one. Number two, this is coming from me. The cause for this result, I created it. Okay, let me stop creating more anger. And you don't throw fire on the, gasoline, on the fire. But like I said, that takes practice. So again, you don't have to, you're certainly not going to be a doormat. You don't have to be prickly, super spicy, ultimate edgy in order to be powerful. Unfortunately, people are taught to fear power. They're taught that power means abuse. Power means you're going to hurt people with it. And so I do get a lot of clients that are very afraid of anger because they've never learned how to feel anger without using it in a harmful way, whether that be self-destructive or against somebody else. And they don't know how to regulate from it. And they don't know what to do if someone else gets angry. In Buddhism, you learn how to, again, hold the tension of two truths, to hold it's the middle way. It's the middle way. So you're able to see both sides and still hold a compassionate view. You start to act in accordance with certain ways of being so that your reality starts to change for the better. And the more that you do that, the more you have to offer to people more love, more compassion, more empathy. Your relationships are definitely going to change for the better, and you won't feel disempowered in them anymore. Disempowerment comes from fear. It comes from feeling powerless or helpless, victimized. But the more that you're taking responsibility for your world, the less that's happening. And the more you're able, like I said, to find that middle way. So I hope that this is just this is such a deep combo. I feel like like I said, Kasha, the woman I was talking about, has a whole business around power because it's so deep and it's so nuanced. But for the purposes of, like I said, that big pendulum swing and most people sort of associating power with being an asshole, I just wanted to put it out there. That is not true at all. There's a much more elegant way to do this. That allows for tons of love to be flowing without you needing to dishonor yourself or betray yourself in any possible way, or even shrink. You don't need to shrink. You don't need to be smaller. You don't need to tone it down necessarily. It's about feeling that power from within yourself. It's a confidence and a radiance and an inner knowing and a self-trust that is a felt experience by other people. So you don't always need to open your mouth. Sometimes you do, but a lot of times you don't. So I can help you do this. You guys, come in and apply for the Underground, my new membership. This is a bold, edgy, devoted spiritual membership. It's an ongoing membership. It's a community that I'm building, and we're starting in July, so applications are open now. For spiritual practice, for connection, you're going to have access to Buddhist practices. It's not mainstream. That's why I called it the Underground, because the Buddhist practices that I'm teaching come from a direct lineage, and you need a teacher. You could Google it, but you have to understand it, and you can't really understand it without a teacher. So I'm going to be offering Tibetan Buddhist meditation practices, philosophy, a monthly either transmission or workshop. There'll be a theme every month. I'm going to have a broadcast channel on Telegram that's private where I'm going to be able to connect with people and send messages, either audio or text during the week. And you'll have a meditation practice to use it'll be the same practice, but you'll use it for the entire month. And every month it's going to change with the theme. So I'm really excited about it. The applications are already coming in. I'm very much looking forward to having a like-minded community of people who are ready to practice. They're ready to go deeper. This is if you've outgrown the new age sort of fluffery and the love and light only spaces, and you are open to the shadow work, the taboo stuff, the spicy side of spirituality. Trust me, it's there. I'm here to bring you, to help you cross the bridge from the love and light. Come with me over to the shadow side too, because we need both. And that's it, you guys. I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for being here. Subscribe, follow the podcast, come back.